managed to leave her freezer open on a hot day for 5 hours? This guy.
That sounds about right. Well, I was caught in the strawberry patch, literally red-handed.
I put carob in my oatmeal just to be weird, and it's actually delicious. I'm a genius.
Yeah, you are. That feeling when you bite into an apple and it's so crispy and perfect, you're like, I just love life.
Love those moments. Have such a good day. Hello, world, and welcome to Have Such a Good Day, episode 104.
Woo, woo. Hello, beautiful and confusing world. One thing we know for sure, we love our patrons.
Why
and
you gotta throw us
listeners.
for a loop, world? Week after week.
How is everybody doing this week? Are you as confused as we are?
Man, yeah. Remember, Heather, a few weeks back when you mentioned that you were voted less likely to be a preppy or whatever in high school?
It was like least yuppie potential.
Least yuppie potential, yeah. Same.
Same.
I had forgotten all about this, but I recall when that whole thing was going around when I was in high school, I somehow got on the list for the category of most confused.
No way.
Which is, I didn't win. I didn't get anything.
What is
but
that?
it was most confused was like it didn't mean like, oh, you're stupid.
No.
But it was sort of like, oh, you're known for like, it's like lovable ditz kind of thing, which is something that someone obviously just signed me up for, like as a joke.
Sure.
You know, because like
sure.
I mean, that's just not really what my thing was in high
No,
school.
I don't
Whatever
see
my
that.
thing was, it wasn't that. But I remember kind of being like, should I vote for myself? Like, that's so weird. Like, it doesn't really make any sense.
So did somebody else win that category?
Yeah, like I didn't win, but I was
Okay,
like,
you were
know,
nommed.
when you look at your choices, however the voting system worked, I don't know. It probably wasn't a super scientific system, but yeah, I was like, most confused. And then I was like, after I didn't win, I was like, well, I'm glad the whole school also agrees that like that
you're
wasn't
not
really
confused.
a good title for Sarah Lane, as she goes to college.
I actually wonder about that because, maybe because you were like a cute, blondish, fun girl, kind of, I guess like me, we were both kind of, I don't know, party girls, whatever. Like my uncle always thought because I was blonde and I was spunky, he always said that, aren't you going out with the quarterback and aren't you going out for
That is
cheerleading?
so, like,
and
not
it really
even how it
bothered me.
works.
And I wasn't like that at all. Like I actually didn't love going to football games in high school. I was sort of like hanging out with the stoners and like the artists and stuff like that. But it bothered me so much. He used to seriously stereotype me because I was blonde.
I think that's very silly.
It was so
I
silly.
I don't know any school where it's like, oh, the blonde girl is going to go out with the quarterback. But
No,
I mean,
I
I
know.
get it like in like a super cliche like teenage drama.
I was more
But-
offended by the cheerleader thing. And I did date a football player briefly.
Now, hold on, Heather. One of us was a cheerleader. So
Shoot.
let's just step off. I was only a
Do
cheerleader
tell.
in junior high. By the time I
Okay.
got to high school, I didn't have. I had to go to keggers. I didn't have time for all that.
Dude, seriously, me too. I had to do cake stands and what do you call it? Those funnel like beer
Like gravity bong,
bongs
yeah,
or whatever.
Whatever.
in the
I guess
bathtub.
gravity bong is more of a marijuana thing. Whatever. I don't know. High school was so long ago.
So long ago, and we digress. But if you are just tuning in, we are the show that loves to find the humor in everyday life because being an adult can be kind of rough sometimes.
Oh, man.
And we are not innocent children anymore or teenagers.
No, we're not.
No.
We are learning a little more every day. Every day is a series of setbacks, really. And we're
And
so glad to have
appointments.
you along for the ride.
Sarah, yesterday it rained all day like it knew we were in a bad drought. Like it was weird. It was so steady and heavy, like raining cats and dogs. And everywhere else I talked to like other friends, are like, God, it's so dry and hot where I am.
Oh, yeah.
it
We're in
rained.
a heat wave where I am.
Yeah.
I mean, rain, I'm just like, how is it that Heather doesn't live that far away? And she just like saw rain for multiple hours
Yeah,
yesterday?
like completely different climate.
Yeah, like me, I'm like, okay, it's kind of time for AC, but like I hate to waste energy, so I really only run it if I have to. And it's like, oh yeah, it's getting into the hundreds this week. week.
Oh,
here.
damn.
It is hot, 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 hot.
Well, it's supposed to be in the 70s here, which is pretty warm for up here. So that says something.
I feel like you have probably kind of San Francisco climate more than anything.
Yeah, kind of. Although I would say I like it better than the San Francisco climate because it's not windy. San Francisco is so blustery.
It has a lot of wind. Yeah. Well, it's that whole you're on essentially an island.
I really feel like it. Like yesterday, I went outside to walk Frank early. It was like before 8. And I can't even explain it. It was so humid. It was about to rain and it was foggy. And it just felt like I was on, like a tropical island. It was lovely. And it was like drippy, like you could hear the kind of mist dripping off the trees. Because it's considered a rainforest up here.
Yeah.
So
you just have a lot more annual rainfall.
Exactly.
Than
although we're in a drought
more
too.
southern areas of our fair state of California.
I mean, it definitely didn't rain like it normally does this year. Like we're definitely in a drought even in NorCal and like Southern Oregon. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see. Yeah, I've got a lot of, you guys all know this if you listen to the show for any length of time, but I have a lot of indoor plants, a few outdoor plants too. But I love all my plants. They're my little children. And my indoor plants are, even though I sort of veer towards succulents and cacti, I've got, I try to mix it up, and I'm always buying a new plant and being like, I haven't tried to take care of this kind of plant, and I kind of read about it on the internet and repot if necessary and try to give it love. And some of my plants just need humidity. And other plants don't care at all, and direct sun or mostly shade or whatever. And so it's always sort of a game of chess. Like, okay, this guy looks a little droopy. Like, where do I put him? And then where do I put the another plant in his spot? Because I only have so much surface area, and so many of the like plant experts that you read online will be like, yeah, get a humidifier and put it near your plants that. Because I can't like put all my plants in the bathroom, right? And even then it's like, sure, the shower will mist up things like very briefly, but it's not like humid in there all day. That'd be like kind of icky.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of misting, and because I'm not running a humidifier in my like wood cabin. Like there's something about like, you don't want too much humidity in a little cabin that doesn't have a whole lot of insulation. Like it just, you gotta.
Oh yeah. We've got a lot of that up here. There's like it's like 90 some humidity up here, and we've got some problems with that. Like I just repainted our bathroom because there's like, it mildews easily. So when you take a shower, you have to open the window. I mean, you have to like really turn the fan on, and I don't love that. That's too much moisture. But I also don't love the desert.
Feels great, but that's the thing with air conditioning. I mean, everyone who runs AC knows this, but it's like, talk about drying it out. Like it feels great, but like I sit in there and then I get cold easily because I'm like, it's on almost like too much.
Yeah.
Luckily my AC works really well, so I get quick results, but then the air is dry and it's like, I'll deal. But then I'm like, oh, my plants, I got to miss my plants. Like it's just a big old never ending project. Well, speaking of the heat, Heather, oh my gosh. So This is a little bit of an Airbnb story and a little bit of just a personal tale of woe. But a couple weeks ago, I had some new guests at the property, Airbnb folks, and I, whenever the house cleaner comes in and does their turnover thing, between guests and new guests. It's a big project, and it's there's a lot of stuff to clean. There's always a ton of laundry. I mean, if they use every bed and every pool towel, which is often, 6 loads of laundry is like a 8-hour project just by itself. It's like you can't, I don't know, you have to wait for things to wash and dry. And, with sheets, it's like you can't skimp, it's got to be like on hot with bleach and the whole thing. And so when, my regular house cleaners is on a little vacay, so I've got my backups, and so I'm a little pickier about walking in afterwards and just making sure nothing was missed. And the thing is that things do get missed, and I'm not saying, oh, it's because they didn't do a bad job. There's a lot of stuff to do, especially because it's an old house, so it will get dusty, and there's a lot of wood on the walls and stuff, and it just shows. If the sun hits it a certain way and it's not sparkling clean, you're like, So instead of me saying, oh, they didn't do a good job, I'm saying, I just noticed like, oh, there's that garbage can in the bathroom and they didn't look and there's stuff in there, right? And as a guest, as a new guest, some people are nitpickier than others. I would consider myself on the low end of the nitpick spectrum if I were a guest. However, if I looked in the bathroom, especially like by the pot, right? And like there's just like, I don't know, stuff that other people threw away that wasn't dumped out, you'd be like, ew, it's other people's bathroom garbage.
Definitely.
So there was a little of that. And what I did notice was in the freezer, there were some containers of ice cream that were just like almost all eaten, but not fully eaten, where I'm like, there's just no reason to leave these in here. I know the previous guests were like, well, we didn't finish them and it's frozen, so we'll just like not throw them out. And I'm like, we're just gonna throw them out because it just looks so eaten, and like who knows if they like used a bowl or if like ate right out of the pint, just like it's just sort of ew. So I threw them out, and this is like early in the morning, and the new guests were coming that afternoon. And a few hours after they get there, I get a message, and they're like, sorry, but like something seems like it's like your fridge is failing. And I'm like, oh God, because it was like a Friday night. It was a couple weeks ago now, but it was something where it was like, it was a very inopportune time to try to get somebody to service, right then. It's like, I can't do anything about fixing a fridge. And this fridge it's a very like nice industrial, big, fancy fridge, right? And so I'm like, oh shit. And, what's the deal? And they said, well, something's wrong with the freezer. The fridge doesn't seem that cold. And I'm like, well, would you like me to come over and look at it? And I'm thinking like, there's literally nothing I can do. I could like unplug it and plug it back in. But I mean, all I'm really doing is like, just, I don't know, just making an effort in order to do zero things. I'm like, it sucks, because people often bring a lot of food and it's perishable, just a mess. Luckily, we have a second, little carriage house that we call it that also has a full fridge. So it's like their food wouldn't have to go bad, but it's super inconvenient. Anyway, I realize, I'm going to make this long story short, I realized what had happened is when I took that ice cream out in the morning, I did not close the freezer all the way. No. And it's one of those pull out and it's on the bottom, like a shelf pull out thing. And so I was in a hurry. I'm like, look at this gross ice cream. And I close it, but it wasn't closed all the way. And it's been hot around here. And I usually just turn I turn the thermostat off in between guests. And I'm like, they'll just like put it to what they want when they get here. As long as it's not like super freezing. And so because of that, the freezer sat open for a full day, just in like lukewarm temps, and everything melted. Now there wasn't much in there. There's like a few bags of ice or whatever, but like there was some stuff that ended up pooling water at the bottom of the freezer. And so when I look at it, the guests are like, it's pretty bad. And I'm like, listen, I think this is my fault and I'll tell you why. And so I told them the story, and you can tell that they're kind of looking at me like, okay, well, hopefully that's what happened, but like, what if the freezer's broken? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I know it was me because I was in here this morning. Yeah. And everything was frozen. The ice cream was frozen. It was just sort of like low and gross. So I threw it out. Like, this wasn't an issue this morning, and now it is. It's me. Yeah. I did this. So anyway, never heard it about again. So obviously, I was right. So, I don't know. The guests, they use the freezer, and hopefully they don't still hate me for it. But so yesterday, like I said, it's been really hot here, and it was like midday. It was kind of hot. The other people that are at the Airbnb now, they were having a bit of a daytime party, and they weren't bugging me or anything, but it was like there were a lot of people. It was kind of loud, and I was like, it's just a good time for me to like get some chores done and get out of the house. Yeah, just kind of get out of here. And so I did, and I stopped by my mom's, and because I was kind of in her neck of the woods, and I ended up staying at her house for dinner. It was great. I was probably gone all told 5 hours. Okay. So I get home, and Lucy's chirping because it's a little late. She wants to eat her food, and I hear my fridge doing its thing when I leave a door ajar, like doo doo doo. Yeah, mine does that too. Plays a little song, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I go around the corner to my kitchen, and I realize my fucking freezer's open. And I have the same freezer as the other house where it's that pull out and it's on the bottom. And what I had done, because I thought maybe I'll stop by my mom's, and I had made a bunch of hummus. And so I'm like, oh, I'll put some in a container and bring her some hummus because I just like made too much for myself. And I'll stick some ice at the bottom of the bag so it stays cold in the car, because I was going to be like in the car for a while and it's freaking hot outside. And I didn't close the freezer all the way. Man. And I ran out in a hurry, you know? And so everything in my freezer, of which there was many things, all just like thawed, completely thawed. And that includes like shrimp and chicken and bread and
like
frozen
a double
fruit.
Freezer whammy.
It's like
you did it to yourself.
It's like, what is wrong with me? This is not a thing that's ever been an issue in any years past, but it happened to me like twice in a week.
Yeah, you're being extra hasty or something.
Yeah, I was just I don't know. I have to just like really be careful to close that freezer door. And there's something about the freezer door, at least in this type of, I don't know, like the model of fridge. Like closing the fridge doors is easy because they kind of magnet into place, right? Like if you were to leave it open, like you're like really not trying to close it. But something about the freezer, it doesn't close the same way. Like I think I'm just like shoving it and thinking, oh, it's gonna pull closed, but it doesn't. It actually is like more weighted. I guess because it's a freezer. But yeah, so that sucked. And I had that moment where I'm like, oh, like my ice cubes were full water. Like there was nothing frozen. Like it really thawed everything out. And I was like, do I just like freeze everything again and like keep the meat? No. And then it was kind of late. Like it's post dinner. You know, I'm kind of coming home and like getting ready for bed at this point. And I'm sort of like, well, I do have the option to just cook everything and just like then freeze it, right? Because at least I've like cooked out anything that might be germy. And I'm like, I don't want to do that at 9 p.m. I do not.
That
do
does
not want to
sound
stand
fun,
in the kitchen.
Shrimp.
Yeah, and there was kind of a lot of it. Like I buy frozen shrimp and I go through it like kind of slowly. There's only so much shrimp. So that sucked, Heather. It was, and I'm so like, nobody likes wasting food, but I think that is a spectrum I'm on the high end of. Like I feel like a real loser when I throw out anything that like would otherwise be like perfectly fine and delicious.
I feel the same way.
So I went to bed a little deflated.
Oh,
yeah, it's all right. I'll get over it.
Such is life, shit happens, and boy, does shit happen. But
doesn't it?
I will say my house is looking real nice. I'm pretty excited. But I ended up painting my bathrooms white. I was going to wait to renovate my bathrooms, but I'm like, it's not going to happen this year. Let me just give them a little paint job and it'll help, like, freshen them up. I'm so glad I made that decision. They look so, so, so nice. It's coming together. And I ended up getting this French country hutch, this kind of antique dining room hutch in the land of 3 furniture stores. And I'm feeling really good about it. It was funny because it was kind of competitive because there's this one shop. It's kind of like a salvage furniture, kind of French country style place. There's this guy, he's a furniture maker that owns it, and he's only open Friday and Saturday. It's a really cool place. It's like indoor, outdoor. You would love it, Sarah. Super cute. And he had this French hutch that is definitely like a little gem. It has like the original pulls, on the drawers that are like these cool, like metal, definitely like a lovely piece. And some woman 2 weeks ago, like, said, I want to get this, but I'm not moving for another couple weeks. And he's like, that's cool. Okay, just, come back. And I came in like a week ago and I was like, well, I want to get this. I'm not 100% sure, but like, can you put it on hold for me this week as I, really decide and measure and everything? And finally, I'm on Saturday, I come back to pick it up and I call him and he's like, well, that girl, came back and she wants it. And he's like, do you really want it? And I felt like weirdly like I won the lottery. I was just like, you didn't get it, I got it. I don't even know this girl, and like, I'm sorry, I feel bad because she was really disappointed, but I felt like it was such a win.
Yeah, you had to get aggressive.
Yeah, I was like, we fun because it's competitive in the world today. Like, there's a lot of people and a lot of people want the same thing, and we ended up eating dinner in my dining room for the first time since we moved. So it's been almost a month, and we've only been eating in our sunroom. It was so lovely, and having my little hutch there, It was so fun. And my sister's here. She showed up last night, so I made her favorite dinner and we had a lovely bottle of wine. It's been nice. It's been a nice week. And boy, I just sort of realized that I'm sort of back in production. I mean, not like film production, but we're planning a memorial and it all kind of just like happened without even confirming anything. Like my family just like bought plane tickets and we hadn't even really like made an invitation or sent a save the date kind of thing. We just kind of talked about a date. It was weird. It was just like everything just kind of, I think people really want to do this, obviously. So, and then I realized I'm like, oh, no big deal. Like families, they're all kind of staying off site because our Airbnbs unfortunately are already booked. We decided to do this memorial for my dad like at the last minute. It's happening in mid-July. And so I realized I'm like, oh man, like this is like really like producing an event in 1 month. And this is like, there's a lot of little things that you don't think about. Like, well, first of all, I needed to make a guest list. Like, I don't really have my dad's Rolodex. Like, I really have to kind of dig around to find who were his closest buds, what are their emails or their phone numbers or whatever. And the guest list is pretty daunting. We made an invitation yesterday. It's really nice. And, I produced it, I guess you would say. You stand behind your editor and you kind of craft what you want it to look like and what font and whatever. And then I realized, oh yeah, well, where's everyone going to park? Oh wait, I might need a podium and a mic, some chairs. Where's everybody going to sit? What kind of food are we getting? Are we getting it catered? And flowers and like, oh, it's like completely went from, oh, no big deal. Just kind of like, it's a modest affair of like a small group of people, but like under 20 people. And now it's kind of like, of course, I'm the producer in the family. So I'm the one that's kind of like taking this on. And, you kind of notice too, like people are like, yeah, how's it going? Like, but people offer to help with certain things, but at the same time, it's on you. I feel like it's on me to like orchestrate it,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fine, but I'm also like on top of everything because it's like I'm pretty busy managing the business. There's a lot going on and continuing to like unpack and whatever. But I'm really thinking that this is the right thing. And I'm looking forward to, this little friend. My uncle yesterday texted me. He's like, oh, don't forget to hire a local musician to play out in the garden because we're going to, have a garden party and get that artist. Because historically, my dad used to throw these garden parties at his house in San Francisco in Telegraph Hill. They were lovely. And he would have like all of his friends over and he'd have like a string quartet and wonderful food under the wisteria. And, and he would have a painter paint the scene. It was just like a sweet thing he did, like a ritual he'd do every year. And so we wanted to do it similar to that. I'm like, oh man, I got to hire an artist. Like, okay, I don't know about this. So I am going to make a list and set my priorities. And if I end up finding an artist, great, but I'm not going to put that pressure on me because boy, like that's a whole other thing. If I have to, interview and find
it's
some
also,
musicians and artists,
it's yeah. I mean, obviously you want to keep everybody happy, but it's also like, this is an event for the people who are here.
Exactly.
It's not like you don't do it wrong. Like,
No.
there's no wrong way to do this. This is a different event than any event that's ever come before. So,
Yeah.
A garden party is not, it doesn't, there's certain boxes, sure, you like try to check them.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I mean, no one
not the
can
end
be
of the
like,
world.
hey, you didn't do the right memorial. It's like, no, every memorial is completely unique.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just draw a picture on the side, like of stick figures, and like,
There
yeah,
you go.
call it a day.
And just throw it at everybody. Here's your picture. You like it?
But we can have like a guest book or like, sort of people can write things in it. I mean, there's things we can do that are like not like hard to coordinate, but I know a lot of this is going to fall on me. It's stressful to host, and even when I have a group of friends, I love it. I love it when people visit. But like, even like last night I was making dinner for my sister and my boyfriend. It's like, it's kind of on me. Like, my sister isn't much of a cook and like, I have to kind of like figure it out. And,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot. Like you're making sure everyone's comfortable. And So doing that for 20 plus people, it'll be interesting. So you guys will definitely hear about it. Don't worry. I will
Yeah.
will give you the play by play.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my dad's memorial, well, it was a funeral, but, you know,
Yeah.
same idea, a long time ago. And I mean, it was at a cemetery because he was buried. And a lot of those plans, I mean, that was like, you know, put in place and paid for
Sure.
beforehand. So, you know, yeah, whoever, like, there was a podium, there was a mic, there were speakers, you know, there were certain things that, you know, my mom and me on some level, again, like very hazy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what I was thinking about that week, but that was something that, you know, was certainly provided by the place. But I do remember, like, it was like an obvious thing where, you know, it was like, you know, we had about a week to sort of pull everything together.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, sure, we talked to some people, but the rest of the people just like found out because we ran something in the newspaper, and which is pretty common. And I remember the, you know, the funeral home was part of like their services, is like, we tell them what we want the newspaper to say and they like deal with the details. And, you know, she's like, okay, so what do you want it to say? And my mom and I are like, we're like making sentences on the fly. Like, we just did not think about this.
Yeah.
We did not think about this detail. And it's like kind of important. Like, it's like going to get printed and like people are going to read it. And like,
Yeah.
my dad was a teacher. So it's like parents and students. And, you know, and we kind of were just like, how did we miss? We just like forgot that we needed to think about like something that's, you know, like people will like clip it out and like maybe save it. Like, we should think about this, but
Yeah.
you know, what are you going to do? You do your best.
Yeah, you do your best, and I do want it to be wonderful. And a lot of my family hasn't seen each other in a long time, and they have differing opinions about certain things happening in the world right now. And I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous that, like, you know, it's been a while since we've convened, and so I hope it's all copacetic. And
Well, you can always think of like, it's like, you know, in the movies and TV shows when you have like the old school Irish memorial back at the house, you know, and someone gets drunk and like falls through a table, people fight,
Totally.
you know, like there's like crying and laughing. It's like whatever happens at your memorial will not be as dramatic as others.
hopefully not.
You know, and you kind
Yeah.
of just laugh about it and go,
You're
oh,
right.
humanity.
You're right. Totally. Exactly. I say that every day, Sarah. Oh, humanity.
Oh, humanity. Yeah. I know. My mom yesterday was like, why do people have to take humanities classes? Like, we're already humans. And I was like, Mom, that's a really good question.
That's a really cute question. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I like kind of know, like, you're like, oh, you know, I'm majoring in humanities. And you're like, okay, I kind of know what that means. But like, why do we do that? I guess we just do. I don't know. We're humans.
From Linnell.
That's
I love
right.
it.
Deep thoughts. Hi, Mom, if you're listening. I don't think she listens to the show, but
Aw,
you know,
she
she's
used
surprised
to.
me before. Well, she listens to a lot of podcasts. I know she listens to the show. I don't know if she'll listen to this exact episode, but
Okay.
if you are listening, hi, Mom, love you.
Hi, Linnell. Miss you.
So speaking of things I love less, well, I love everything less than my mom because I love her the most.
Of course.
But let's talk about social media, Heather.
Let's
because
do
social
it.
media is just the most annoying.
Oh, yeah.
It's also
humanity.
You know, talk about humanity. But I participate so much less in social media than I used to, and I think that's overall a good thing. It's just it's fatigue on my side. It's the realizing that I participated in a lot of stuff that I now call sort of like cutesy and trendy. You know, like where someone does, you know, it says like, I don't know, like there'll be like a long Twitter thread where someone goes like, oh, you know, the street you grew up on and the name of your first pet is your porn name. What is it? And then like there's so many responses, you know, and it kind of comes around to some of the people I'm following. And I'm like, that would have been fun for me like so many years ago on Twitter. And now I just like, I don't need that stuff. Like that's like, that information is not relevant, you know, like it doesn't help me. I'm like trying to like find out knowledge for like, you know, talking about technology on a show later kind of thing. Like, but it's not right or wrong. It's just like I have gotten to a certain amount of social media fatigue where I filter out almost all of it. And then I try to like, sure, there's some like haha funny stuff. There's some memes, you know, that I get a chuckle out of, but mostly it's like information. I really consider it more of an information tool and less of a fun tool. And so I post less. I still lurk a fair amount, but when I start to feel myself getting annoyed, I'm like, just go do something else.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. So one of those things is, and this is kind of Facebook mostly, but you could apply it to pretty much any platform with any sort of algorithm, which they all have, where you're like, why am I seeing this? How do I tell the algorithm that it's doing the wrong job? I don't want this thing to be at the top of my feed, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So on Facebook, of course, if you want to get really granular, you've got lots of options, right? And I hang out on Facebook. I've actually kind of like upped my Facebook game recently, and that's not for any real
What does that mean?
reason.
Like you're posting more?
No, I'd never post, but like I would just not look at Facebook more than once a month.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, it's just my least favorite place.
Yeah.
There's just too much.
Totally.
And too much emphasis on like people that I went to high school with and stuff like that, where it's like, just friends where you're like, I literally will never speak to you again. And there's too much information about your life that I pretend is relevant. And like, it's just noise, and all that good stuff. So it was sort of like, Facebook. But the thing is that there is information on Facebook that I need and want. And some of the people on Facebook, that's kind of where they hang out mostly. And I care about them. And so that is actually a relevant place to like keep up. So some time ago, I'm not one of those people who like tried to max out their friends where it was like 5,000 and like that's as many as you can have. And like people did that a while ago because they were like, oh, the more friends means like more engagement and like people will click on my links, and like I don't play that game at all anymore. Like I'm a very bad self-promoter, for my like work stuff, but that just applies to everything. So
yeah,
I would, when someone would just be like, and this, don't hate babies, but I really hate when someone has a baby and then like all their identity is just like, look at this cute baby.
Exactly.
And like their captions are just like, because who can say no to this face? And I'm like, I can, because you like posted the same face for a week straight. Like it's like a baby. It looks like a baby. But I would feel this way about my dog, right? If someone was like, her dog is like not that cute, I'd be like, fuck you, right? So it's like, it's all relative.
Sure.
But those people, and what happens is like, you can stay friends with somebody because you're not trying to offend them, but you can unfollow them. So like if you type their name into your your search bar, their profile comes up. You're still friends. You haven't blocked them, but their activity is not going to show up in your feed. And that I do that. Well, I did it kind of liberally for a while, to the point where I would forget about somebody and I'd be like, where's that person? God, I really haven't. That person has not updated in a while. And I go and I realize, oh, I unfollowed them because they annoyed me like 3 years ago, and I'm not really trying to like wipe them from my life, but it was something about their style where I'm like, I'm not jiving with this.
Yeah.
And then there's like the more annoying part where like you get a notification and the notification is like, so-and-so posted an update. And I'm like, hide notifications about this person's updates. Like, this person never needs to be, I do not need to be notified about anything. Like, don't notify me ever, basically.
I know, like,
unless someone tags me in a photo.
Yeah, like so-and-so just hasn't posted in a long time. Check it out. I got to turn that off. That's been driving me crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, they
I
haven't
don't
posted in
care.
a long time and I've forgotten about them. You don't need to remind me. But I do. So I'm now at this sort of like, I'm trying not to just like, it's like, if I want to unfollow you but stay friends, like there's something a little wrong here, right? Because I'm like being super passive aggressive about hiding you, but I don't want you to know. And I don't even really know you well enough for us to ever have a conversation about this. Like, what is going on here, Sarah? Like you're like reading too much into like algorithm options.
Yeah, totally.
But there are some people, shall remain nameless, and I'm not, definitely not throwing anyone specific under the bus, but there are people who, so you've got like the unfriend, and that's like, ooh, dramatic, something happened. Then there's like unfollow, but still stay friends, but like they will now be buried and you'll forget about them for 5 years. Or there's see fewer posts like this. And that one is always curious to me, because I'm like, okay, well, Facebook has enough, there's like a machine learning thing going on where if there's a photo, like a close-up photo of someone's baby, there's that is being recorded somewhere, like picture of newborn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Sarah saying, see fewer posts like this in, the way that I feel like it should be working is like, see fewer posts that look like this and it looks like a baby. Because, you know, it's probably going to be that kind of post that I feel like, flooded. I'm getting flooded with, you know, this sort of thing. You know, I would say the same thing for someone who posts about their wedding over and over, where you're like, dude, you got married a year ago and we're like still looking at wedding photos. Like, okay, we get it. You got married. So did a lot of people. But at the same time, it's like, well, they're excited. Maybe they looked really good in that photo. And it's like, you know, I don't want to be a hater, but I am kind of a hater. Depends on the day, right? But so I'm like, see fewer posts like this. And now it's come to a point where I'm like, Facebook and I are in like a standoff of some kind because there are just a few people. I feel like it works pretty well, but there are a few people. And it's like, yeah, I've interacted with their posts in the past, like trying to be nice, like, oh, you look great, or heart, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, no, Sarah does care. Sarah really does want to see this baby. And I'm like, see fewer posts like this. And every time I'm like, come on now, how many times do I have to do this? And it's like, I don't know. Like Facebook is like, no, but you do care. Like that person's your cousin. And by the way, this is so not about any of my cousins, but it's like, it is sure that this is the exception to the rule. And I'm like, it isn't the exception to the rule, you know? I actually love all my cousins' babies. Like they're, you know, family is different.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like, it's so weird. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep hammering this one home. And
You're
one
like fighting
day,
with
maybe,
AI.
That's right. Yeah. I'm fighting with the machine.
You
I am
really
raging
are.
against the machine.
You
and
are
Heather,
raging.
I'm not winning yet.
Dude, maybe you should start listening to that band.
I used to be a
I
big
know, me
rage
too,
fan.
a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, I still am. If I were to listen to them, there's a lot of yelling. You know, I'm a
Yeah.
little bit older. It's
a
you know, I
bit
gotta pick and
ragey.
choose my moments.
Seriously, this is funny. I really relate to this. I mean, I don't open up Facebook, and I think I've mentioned on the show that I will not mention any names, but there is just one person in my life who uses Facebook for everything. Everything, has it open all day long and is in his little bubble. And he calls me on FaceTime, like video call, not FaceTime, Facebook. And it's like, I've told him so many times, I don't use Facebook. Like I rarely open it. And when I do, it's because, yeah, someone posted something and tagged me, or I have to open it because he sent me a message. You know, that's mostly why I open it. And it's so funny when someone just uses one platform and they refuse to collaborate with you and see what works best for you. It's like very weird.
I love that. Heather's like, you know, you should pay a little bit more attention to where I hang out so that I can see your content in other places.
Well, it's like so weird though, because when someone's like on one thing, you know, and he won't go on Instagram, and he knows I'm on Instagram. Like I'm much more of an Instagram person, even though I've backed off too. But I don't know. I think there's just like, I'm willing to compromise. Are you? That's really the question.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's a funny dance. I dated a guy, not recently, but he would always mention, maybe I was like more prolific on Twitter at the time, but he would mention things that I would post, you know, and I'm like, it's funny, like I forget you're on all these platforms because you don't like, I thought you just didn't use them. And he's like, the only place I post is Facebook. And I remember being like, of all the places, huh, okay.
Yeah.
And he posted like really stupid stuff on Facebook too, where I'm like, it's not a great look, dude.
Like, look
But,
at my
you know,
burrito I
we
ate
didn't
for
end up getting
lunch.
married, so whatever. Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah,
Pet peeves,
anyway.
Sarah. We all have them.
So many. And I really don't, I do feel like I can get so worked up about stuff like this where I'm like, I feel like it should work better. Who do I talk to? And the answer is nobody. Just go do something else,
just
Sarah.
broken.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Life is a series of technical hurdles, and I just walk away these days and try to get a good night's sleep because what else is there to do?
You know, technology can be your friend, but it also can be your enemy. And, you know, just,
Yes.
you know, tread lightly, I guess. Everything in moderation, Sarah.
That's right. Like the ice cream that I did not moderate last night, and that's why I feel like poop right now.
Did you end up eating the ice cream from the other freezer?
No, God, no.
Okay.
No, too many. Somebody's mouth was in there. No, I ate a whole. No, I didn't even. Oh, this is the best part of my whole freezer thing. I didn't even mention this part. So last night, come home from my mom's. I've eaten dinner at her house. You know, it's getting late. Sun's gone down. And on my way back, you know, I pass a market right before I get home. And I'm like, should I stop and get ice cream? No, don't. No, I should. No, don't. Oh, I have my mask in my pocket. Okay, stop. So I stop and I get a pint of ice cream. Haagen-Dazs Rocky Road, one of my favorites.
Oh,
and
you're a
I
Rocky
was,
Road person.
You know, well, it's Haagen-Dazs specifically because the marshmallow is more of a ribbon. Oh, it's really good. And they use almonds instead of like walnuts or whatever. Some Rocky Road is kind of gross.
Yeah,
this is
I
not
agree.
gross. Rocky Road, Haagen-Dazs, Rocky Road. You'll thank me later. But I already know at this point that I am not a person who can ration a pint. If I buy a pint, I eat a pint. That's how it works in my house. I don't have self-control. So I get home and I'm like, but I'm still lying to myself like, well, just have like a quarter of the pint and then put it in the freezer. Well, guess who left her freezer open for 5 hours? There was nothing. I couldn't
So
freeze
you had
anything.
to eat the whole pint.
I
You
had
no
to eat the whole
choice.
pint because by the time the freezer got cold again, it would have been like melted and gross anyway.
No one can blame you, Sarah. Don't
It's
blame
just,
yourself.
I can't win. All right.
You can't win.
My rant is over.
Well, circling back to pet peeves, Sarah, I'm very familiar with yours, and I think you're probably familiar with some of mine. And, we sometimes can grouse and prattle on about them on the show, but that's part of the fun. I have one that really just grinds my gears, grates on me,
Okay.
In various ways. So when people, and I know that you will relate to this, Sarah, when people use the wrong mode of communication tool to reach out to you about something, like, for example, an Airbnb guest at 10 p.m., I get a text from them at 10 p.m. on, a Sunday night, wondering where the cookie sheet is because she has a hankering to make cookies.
I mean, how many places could it be? There either is one or there isn't.
Yeah. And then actually like half an hour later, she sent me another text saying, oh my gosh, we found it. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, obviously I've sent them my phone number and they can contact me. That's the way it is. But in my mind, it's like you could easily just send me an email or use the app. Like I have Airbnb and Vrbo. You can just email me via the website. We have an ongoing thread anyway. Yeah. Why text me? And then like yesterday, I got a future guest who's coming in like over a week. He's not even here until like later June. He texts me yesterday in the middle of the day requesting me to put out the barbecue, which we offer. And it's like, dude, like, I'm not really going to remember that because it's like sitting in my text, a text thread with like an unknown number. What you were saying the other day, Sarah, and I'm going to get to this, but like kind of encouraging people to, it's nice to have a paper trail. So use Airbnb, use the mode of communication that we started with, because that way I can track it and it'll help me remember to do it.
Yeah.
And here is the doozy of the year, and it's related to this whole comms thing. Okay, Sarah?
Okay.
Okay, the way my dad had this thing set up is a little bit old school, and that's fine. He wasn't super tech savvy. He had a lot of people like email him directly from our website. So you could either book on Airbnb, you could book on Vrbo, which is the easiest because it's kind of an instant booking.
Right.
And then you just send them info and it's great. And you don't have to worry about them sending you a check and waiting for it in the mail. But my dad liked this sort of more intimate approach of like a lot of regulars would maybe send him a check or bring him cash when they got here, which is cool. I don't mind it if it's a handful of people, but there's quite a few people who still email my dad. And I have set up a redirect for his email, but I haven't gotten an email from his email for like 3 months. So it's like, I figure at this point, anything he booked last year is now in my hands. Well, no. So yesterday I get an email via his email from a woman who basically had booked with my dad last summer via his email, no other platform. Like it wasn't like a group email. It wasn't on my email that I had set up later down the line. And she's like, oh yeah, we're working our way up California coast. We're so excited. We'll probably arrive around 4:00 tomorrow. And I'm just like seeing this for the first time and kind of confused. I don't recognize her name.
Yeah.
And then I like look in my books and I'm like, my stomach's kind of dropping. I'm like, oh God, this feels like it's going to be like some fallout, like I some fallout has happened since my dad passed, but not not this bad. So when I realized the people that I had booked in my book, because I have like my Bible where I write who's in there, because it can get confusing having people book on 3 platforms.
Yeah.
And so I look in my book and like that name is not in there. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm like scrolling down the thread, realizing that it was just my dad she talked to. He didn't write it in the book. It transferred over to me like a month later. So there was like some, he was not really totally with it at the time.
Yeah.
And it fell through the cracks. So I had to cancel on the newer people and let this woman stay because she had booked a year ago.
Right.
I mean, I can't cancel on her. She's like on her way here. And, it was a whole thing. I had to unravel and talk to people and they were upset. And I gave them like a free night, blah, blah, blah. But boy, that was that was like the biggest fallout that has happened since he passed. But I took your advice, Sarah. I know we talked about some of this stuff, or we always talk about this stuff because we're both kind of living the same life. But I took some of your advice and I added some kind of context to my listings, a little bit more detail. So to try to, information to help people maybe avoid having them ping me about non-emergency stuff via text, like encouraging them to use the app for a paper trail.
Yeah.
My boyfriend suggested, have them screen grab directions and details because they often will get here and be like, what's the Wi-Fi info? Because they can't get to it because they're not on the Wi-Fi. And it's like all these things that reoccur and that kind of irk me, like it's just annoying throughout the weekend to be getting the same thing over and over. Creating a redirect on my website. I'm going to see how it goes. I fixed all that this weekend, but I will say I love my guests and 99.999% of them are wonderful. And especially this one where the morning that this whole doozy thing happened, all is well that ends well, Sarah, because my housekeeper called me and was like, hey, the guest that left this morning left you a present. I was like, what? Oh, okay. So I met her outside and she brought it to me and it was the sweetest. They made me an origami charm, like a little dangly charm of Japanese cranes. And they wrote a card that said Heather on it. And it said the tsuru, so it's Tsuru, it's a Japanese name. Japanese crane represents peace, good health, happiness, and longevity. Our wish for you and yours, Amy and Ken. And I was like, oh man, that really made my day. It was so sweet. And I'm like, for someone to take the time out to do that, I thought was very sweet. And this was a guest that I had not really communicated with much. This was just sort of a random thing. And
that's really nice.
Amy and Ken, you're the best.
Well, I'll just say for the record, no one's ever left me a gift. Not even a piece of coal. Nothing. What they leave me is their dying flowers.
Half pints of ice cream.
Well, the ice cream, you figure that they're
towels.
Just like, whatever. They just like didn't throw it out. But there's, you buy yourself, fresh flowers. Got it. That's nice. Right. You put it on the dining room table. You're enjoying it while you're here. But you don't throw out that they're dead. Like they're dying and dead. The water's gross and you leave and... oh gosh, I could go on and on, but there's like, again, when I talk about things that get left, it's like, I know that the cleaners, like they have bigger fish to fry and they kind of glance at like, oh, there's flowers, whatever, it's fine. And then I look, I'm the last set of eyes, where I'm like, you guys, first of all, guests, these are your gross flowers. Like you should have thrown them in the compost. That's your job, but you didn't do it. Cleaners like, oh, they're fine. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're not like that dead yet, but they're not getting any, better. Anyway, but it's like, what am I going to do? Complain and be like, you should have thrown out those half alive flowers. Like, it's like, no, I just do it. And I wash out the thing.
Man, we could just go on and on and on. And you know what? You guys let us know how you feel about our show topics today because I'm really passionate about it and clearly Sarah is and we could just a whole show on pet peeves on technology.
Oh, pet peeves are my jam.
Yeah.
Pet peeves are my jam. I really have been trying to pull back on the bitch session about the way that people live their lives when they're in vacation rentals because, we've joked about how the show could just be that, but I also I don't want my worst fear is someone to be like, well, I listened to your show and I knew you were talking about me, even though that would be like, that would be really a stretch.
Yeah.
But stranger things have happened. But yeah, there are definitely times where I'm like, it's not even the flowers. Like the flowers are just like, who cares? But there are things that are weirder or more passive aggressive than that, where I'm like, really? Okay, that's just what you decided to do. I'm going to go on a walk now and think about something else and then look at Facebook and start unfollowing people.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's a plan. Speaking of emailing us how you feel about things, we got some feedback on a couple episodes ago. Maybe it was last week. I don't know. They all run together.
I think it was, yeah.
Last week, I was telling a story about that. Like, it was a crazy story about how the young woman, had personal photos and videos uploaded to her Facebook account, and they tracked it back to these people who worked at an Apple third-party repair shop. There was something wrong with her phone or her computer, I forget, one of Apple product. She took it in somewhere. They had access to accounts that she was logged into and like did her dirty, and it was a big deal. And Jude wrote in and said, regarding passwords in your third-party authorized repair store, my MacBook Air's battery was dead. I worked with the tech at the Apple store, diagnosed the problem. They agreed to replace the battery. They asked me for my password to complete the repair, and I asked why they need my password to replace a battery. We had a discussion. They insisted that they needed it to test the laptop. I didn't think that was right, so I gave them a fake password. Picked it up a few days later. The battery was replaced. Everything works fine. So I guess if they needed to access my laptop, I would just tell them to wipe the drive. So just like your social security number, you need to protect your data and passwords with the same level of security. That's interesting. It sounds like, Jude, you were working with the Apple Store directly, or perhaps it was a third-party repair shop. It's a little unclear to me. Either way, I think you did the right thing, where they're like, yeah, we need your password. And you're like, what? Replace the battery? It's kind of a swap out thing, right? And they, maybe legitimately the person on the other end is like, no, because we have to like boot it and make sure the battery works. But you clearly gave them a password that wasn't going to get them anywhere, and the battery was replaced. So good on you for being like, instead of just like arguing with them, just like get around the situation. Obviously, everyone's mileage may vary, but yeah, I think about that a lot, because I have a few, actually, just old computers, old work computers and stuff, that they're beyond the point where I could really do much with them. They're sort of they could be displays, I guess. And Apple won't take any money back for them. They're all MacBooks. So they're in recycling territory. And even then, I'm like, I gotta wipe all that stuff before I actually get them recycled, because there's just, I don't even know what's on them anymore, but it's data of some kind.
Gosh, I think I got $70 for my dad's old iMac when I think they had quoted me at 300, and it's like that email so sad where it's like, I'm sorry, but your piece of junk is only worth $70.
I know.
It's like womp womp.
I think they also they're really optimistic with you at first.
Of course.
Because they're like, this is how much you could get for it, so you should buy that new one.
And it encourages you to send it in.
Well, yeah, because they want you to upgrade. And then it's like, actually, your old computer is like in worse shape than what you told us. So 300 is now 70. Have fun. Don't spend it all on one page.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, we love getting your emails. We really do. So many of you have fun anecdotes and stories. They don't all make it into the show, but please keep sending them, because it's great.
We read them, and we want to respond.
We absorb them, and we love them. And
yes.
If you and they do get into a show here and there. Hi@havesuchagoodday.com is where to send your emails. If you have questions, comments, ideas about something that we could tackle on a future show, we'll take it. Thank you in advance.
Thank you. And we have a new patron,
Yay.
Sarah. Oatgrenin.
Oatgrenin.
I love that name. It's fun to say. Oatgrenin.
It's kind of, the way that it's spelled seems Scandinavian. I don't know.
It does.
Maybe. I like everything that has oat in it, because it's like Otis, my dog.
Yeah, exactly.
I also like to eat oatmeal. So Oatgrenin is like your
nice.
oats and your grunnin.
I love it. I love it.
Oatgrenin, so glad to have you. So glad to have you.
So glad to have you. And welcome back, Craig. Okay, so Craig has been, I call him Craigo. He's been around for a long time. He's back. He's back in the mix. And he's just a lovely man. He is notorious for posting photos of his gorgeous cats in front of gorgeous hydrangeas on Instagram. And I enjoy them very much. So welcome back, Craig. It's so good to have you back in the fold.
Yeah, we have 108 patrons, at least as of this recording. Boy, would we love to have 200. I know that sounds crazy, but you know what? Crazier things have happened. So just a quick reminder, if you like the show, even if you love the show, do consider supporting us directly. You do not have to give us a dime in order to enjoy the show. You might hear some ads. Anybody who supports us directly at Patreon, which is patreon.com/havesuchagoodday, gets an ad-free show. If you can contribute $5 a month or more, you can get access to our Discord. We chat in there between shows all week, every week. And we'll shout out all new patrons for sure. We promise to do so. As soon as you sign up, you get a shout out from us. So if you want your name in lights, that's a fun little perk. And just thanks so much to everybody who supports us. We couldn't do without you.
I couldn't have said it better, Sarah.
Seriously. Thank you, Heather. I feel like I've done this once or twice. Yeah. What are we? Episode 104?
Oh, God.
I know.
Yeah, you could do it in your sleep. I really think you probably actually do it in your sleep. I bet. Maybe Lucy and Oat hear you, reciting ads.
Lucy was such a shitbag last night. She's been so good with me lately, and she just wanted attention while I was sleeping at like 4.
You know what, Sarah? I haven't really talked to you at length about this, but I have, since we moved, and I think it's partially because cats are so territorial and they have to adapt. And it's been almost a month though. My Charlie, who's a Maine Coon mix Norwegian forest cat, I don't know. He is just, he got a taste of the outdoors. I've been walking him on a leash because he just insists, and it's so cute. We walk around the bush, the big roadie bush, and he loves it so much, but it's made him a little crazy. He's like, now that he's kind of gotten a taste of it, he wants out all the time. He jets out when we open the door. I can grab him and bring him back in, but then he's meowing and howling all day. I just hope he calms down. He's kind of, he has that like stressful yowling, where he wants something, and I have to put my noise canceling.
It's hard to ignore.
Headphones.
Yeah, cats, man. Think hard about that one, everybody, before you get one. Nah, I'm just kidding. I love Lucy. She's also just old and crotchety, so it's like, whatever. She's going to have an off night here and there, but I sure don't like it at 4 a.m.
No.
Where I'm like, it's dark, but maybe it's like almost time to get up, and I look and I'm like, 4 a.m., fuck you. Get away from me. Yeah, get away from me. Like, I hate you.
Get off my lawn.
It's like I imagine it's like, I don't know. It's been a really long time since I slept next to like a partner regularly, but like, that feeling where like, like maybe someone's like, oh, they're trying to like cuddle, and you're like, no, get off of me. I'm too hot. I'm having a good dream. Like, get away from me. I want your body to not exist.
Seriously, the new position for Charlie is like being my lumbar pillow behind my office chair, because he's like really snug in there. And it's actually cozy and warm for me, but it's also like my lower back starts hurting because I'm really pushed up to the front of the chair, and it's really uncomfortable. And I'm like, I am working here, dude. I'm bringing home the bacon and the cat food for you, and I cannot sit like this any longer.
Right.
Anyway, that's more cat talk for another show.
Yes, we will definitely save our cat follies. If you have any of your own, hi@havesuchagoodday.com is where to send that email, whether we talk about it or not. You can always vent. You can always vent with us.
Please, but we love venting. Love a good vent.
Love a good vent. So many vents. So many vents to be had. So many vents to stand on top of, Marilyn Monroe style, and be like, look, it's a vent.
Yay!
Yay! All right, Heather, let's get out of here before we get too weird.
We're getting weird.
We are getting weird. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. Just kidding. You're not watching. You're only listening. We're watching each other. God, I really need to, lay down or something.
I know, we look like twins today. We're both wearing, our thick brown readers. Yeah, just and our hair's in a
limping
ponytail.
along, staring down another week. Bunch of jerks. All right, well, let's...
All right, we love you guys.
Let's reconvene for episode 105 next week. Until then, have such a good day.
Bye.